Today we're going to be working on a new paper to me that I have never tried before. Now this paper has been out for a while, so it's only new to me because I've had it for so long and I've never tried it on these mediums. But we will be working with the Grafix Dura-Bright White. And so I am super excited to get into this and try it with two different types of mediums just to see how this works. So let's go ahead, turn this around, and let's get started. Hi everybody, and welcome to DC Fine Art. Today we're going to be working, like I said, with the Grafix Dura-Bright. I have it right here. And it is a newer paper to me. I know it has a price on it, but a price doesn't come off. I don't know. I've had it for quite a while, just sitting on my shelves. And I never really tried it on anything except for I have tried it. And this is probably maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years ago. I've tried it with alcohol markers. Was it alcohol markers? I think it was. And it started to bleed. So I was like, you know what? I can't get the type of detail I'm wanting because the ink starts bleeding. So I just kind of threw this paper off to the side and never really used it for anything. So here we're going to go ahead and I'm going to read you what it says on this paper. Now it does say that it is non-staining, reusable, heat tolerant, heavyweight, non-absorbent, and waterproof. Dura-Bright White is pH neutral, which is really good. Durable mixed media surface for watercolor, alcohol inks, sprays, and acrylics. And so this here is a 9x12 sheet. Now, as you can see, they have some artwork that's in the little image there. I don't know. Maybe we could do that. He looks at me. So as you can see, it's like kind of like a fluid type of look that they have on the artwork on the front of this. But what the heck? I like working in color pencil, so I didn't know if it would be something that you could use with color pencil or maybe you can use with your Inktense. It does say on here alcohol inks, like alcohol markers. And I tried that out and it did not work out very well. It started bleeding. So we already know that 3 years ago, I've tried it out and it basically ruined my son's, I was doing an anime for him because he likes anime. And I drew out this whole entire picture with pencil on it. Or actually I didn't do it on it. I drew it out on a separate piece of paper, transferred it to it. Then I started working with alcohol inks and also with some of my ink pins, so that way I can get the lines all in there perfect. But then it started to bleed with the alcohol markers. And so, yeah, it was definitely a no-go on that one. So I went ahead and just thought, okay, well, what about color pencils? It's not listed as one of the things that you can use with this paper, but I said, what the heck? You never know. Try it out, see if it works. If it works, great, you found yourself a new paper. If it doesn't, well, maybe other thoughts on it. Maybe it could work better with something else, just not color pencil. Or what about Inktense? Ink is still an ink. It's water-based. I mean, no, not water-based, but you can use water to be able to, well, actually it could be water-based because it is permanent. So you could use those. How would that react to it? How would that work? So I went ahead and tried those out. So let's go ahead. I'm going to turn this around and we're going to look at the video of the apple that I did with color pencil. And I'm going to kind of go over it with you. And plus that, if you watch this video on my shorts, the question was, did I like this paper or did I not like this paper? That was one of the questions I'll be answering at the end of this video. So let's go ahead, turn this around, and let's work on this apple. I want to kind of go through it in a speed painting, but we're still going to talk it through and just kind of let you know what I thought whenever I was working on this apple. So here I am starting the apple. I am using for my color pencils is the Caran D'Ache Luminance. And I chose these pencils because it's in kind of a in between hard and soft. and I just love these pencils. So I decided to stick with it since I didn't know which direction this paper was going to go. Now, I did use my Derwent Drawing Chinese White for highlights, as you can see right there. I tried to use it, but no white showed up. Like once you put down your color pencil, none of the white stuck to the paper. You couldn't see anything. So that was kind of a bummer. And also, I need to make note that if you cannot put your whites in on top of your darks, that you might have to make sure, kind of like with watercolor, make sure you leave an area white first that you want to highlight in and then go around it. So I had to make sure to kind of keep that in mind whenever working on this apple. Now, the other thing is I was like, okay, so how do I lighten colors? If you are not able to stick a white to the paper, how are you supposed to lighten some of your reds? And so I attempted to try it by laying down some white first in some of these areas, then going on top very lightly with some red. So I did attempt to do that. And basically, it didn't really show up much of anything. I even tried everything I could to go over that white, over the reds, trying to make it lighter, and it just didn't really work out that well for some reason. I mean, I would say there's maybe a little bit of a lightness to it, but it almost looks almost washed out looking. So that was not that fun on that part. But I did leave some open circles to where I could put some whites in the center of them and then maybe just right around the edges, maybe just blend with OMS and maybe that might just work. Not for sure yet. So here I am just getting in all my base colors in. And what I'm noticing is, yeah, I'm not working in like super teeny tiny circles or anything. But the way that this paper is, even if you worked in tiny little circles, I just don't think it's going to really do much good because you're basically putting in so much of the pigment that it's laying down a lot of the pigment, but almost in some areas too much. Like you might actually have quite a bit of color pencil on there. So I was like thinking, okay, well, maybe this might blend out beautifully. So I didn't really think too much of it whenever I was using this. I just wanted to see how it would work with enough pigment on the paper. It should blend, but yeah, we'll just see. Adding in some of my darks. Now you can go darker with it. So if there's an area on there that you're wanting to put in a shadow and you're wanting to go darker, you could go darker because I did do that right here with the shadow. But even though I did that, it left a lot of like thick areas of the color pencil, like wax buildup, that made it kind of rough and uneven. So I was really kind of praying that if I used my odorless mineral spirits and blend this out, that it would even it all out. So wasn't quite for sure what it would do, but really kind of hoping that it would. Now with all the textures that was in this, I tried to make the textures to where it went in like a certain direction. So I tried to take that back around and then just kind of come up and towards the center of the apple. So here I am taking out my odorless mineral spirits. And as you can see, and I did wipe off my brush too, by the way. I made sure it was wiped off pretty good before I went in here to blend this. And yeah, it started to blend it. The problem is that it removed, actually in some areas, too much of the color pencil. It almost removed it enough to where it dulled it down. So, and then there was some areas that had a lot of color pencil on it that was really, really thick with wax. And those chunks basically were still there, like little pitted dots. And it was just really, really awkward. So I tried to blend out that black and then it started to do the same thing. So now that we worked on the apple with our colored pencils and we get to see and feel the difference in the texture of the paper and how it works with the OMS once you throw that in there. So now we got that, but how does it act whenever you use your Derwent Inktense pencils? Is it any different whenever you have to throw in that water brush and start adding water to it? What does it do? So let's go ahead, turn this around, and let's get to working on this green apple and see exactly what happens using the Derwent Inktense pencils. Now here I am starting out the same way. I'm going to be working with the Inktense pencils by Derwent, and I'm just working on this stem. I'm basically going to fill in and color this whole entire apple using my Inktense pencils. I tried using the white in there, and of course the white didn't show up, kind of like the color pencils. The white did not show up once you put down a color like the browns. Yeah, the white was null and void. So I had to do kind of the same exact thing, put in the white first, and then I try to see if I could go on top of the white with a lighter green. Maybe that might lighten it, and it just went right over the top of it like it wasn't even there. So in order to do that with the highlights, I had to make sure that my highlight, I went around where I want the brightest highlight to be at. Now I will fill that in with white. That way it is covered. But even with the white that I put down and then put green on top of it, it did make it a little bit lighter doing that. Like if you put green on top of it, but I knew good as well. We're working with Inktense and you use your water brush, all that's going to go away. I mean, I can just already see that happening because it happens even on regular watercolor paper. You can end up making that white just totally dissolve in with the green will overpower it. So you just have to be very, very careful on where you stick your white and how you blend in order to keep that white looking white. So here I am just adding in some darker greens where I want my shadows, just kind of going up. Now, I didn't know how this was going to react when using my Inktense pencils. So I just was throwing in random colors here and there, just hoping that whenever I blend with water, that this would all just come together nicely and have some nice uneven tones of light green and dark greens in there for the apple. That way I'm kind of mixing it up. So here I got that all filled in. Got my white in there in the center. Putting some more greens in there, some darker ones for the center. And now I'm coming in with my brush. Now, as you can tell, the moment this brush started to mix in the greens, I noticed that this was going to work totally different than what I thought. It doesn't soak, the water doesn't soak into the paper, so it sits on top, and everywhere you move your brush, you're making lines. No matter which way you go, I was making these lines of the brush. And so I was like, okay, that's not going to look that pretty. So then I started thinking about it, and I was like, make it wet. Use like a little Kleenex to kind of soak up some of that ink, and then your highlight comes back. So I was like, oh, there we go. And so then I started looking, I was like, hey, if you add enough pigment to it and you can absorb some of it to make it white, why not add more water like to your apple and then take that water brush. And this is where I came up with the idea. Like after doing that, I added a whole bunch more water and then I started moving and swirling my water brush around, making this beautiful marble-like look with the apple, making sure to kind of keep my darks in there. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you're wanting to know whether or not I liked the paper or if I did not like this paper, I can tell you that in my personal opinion, this doesn't mean that everybody's like that. If you have tried this paper and you absolutely loved it for color pencil, that's awesome. For me though, on how I felt, I didn't really like it too much with my color pencil. It was just, even when using the OMS, it was removing a lot of the pigment from the paper. It left it really, really dull. Didn't keep a lot of my color pencil on the paper. So it just did not feel right. Plus it left a lot of like grittiness or thickness of the color pencil. Some areas were really thick. And whenever you're blending with OMS, it didn't really want to take those chunks off. So I was left with an uneven surface, which can cause not so good as you keep layering on. So I did not prefer this for color pencil, but the paper does say it's not for color pencil, or at least it didn't say not for color pencil. It just does not have color pencil listed on the paper itself. Now, when using it with my Derwent Inktense, at first I was like thinking, okay, I wonder how this is going to go. I went ahead and layered in all my pencils, and as you can see, I used a little bit of water and it just started to blend it out like watercolor. I mean, it just went everywhere. So it didn't absorb into the paper. That's when it finally dawned on me that, duh, see this? That is what it's supposed to be used for. Of course, you know, I went ahead and I did this apple, and I thought, you know what? Why not put this kind of look with the swirls? You got the different color swirls in there, and it looks gorgeous. I actually like that. Put it in an apple. So when I got all those colors together, I started adding more water to it, and then I started taking my brush and just kind of looping it around, making sure to kind of keep my shadows in one area, and it ended up turning out really, really nice. I really did enjoy working on that apple once I found out that adding more water, it doesn't absorb. This paper doesn't absorb. It just, the water sits there. And so you're able to take your paint and swirl it around, make designs, make some different, if you want to throw in some different colors, even more power to you. You go ahead and do it. I mean, you can do this. And so the way I feel about this paper, color pencils, nah, did not like for color pencils, but I did like them for the Inktense. And I probably, if I added some watercolor and do some watercolor, or if you work with gouache, this would be a perfect paper to do a marbleized look, and maybe add it to another fruit. If you wanted to do a fruit, an apple, just like I did, if you want to do any kind of thing and just make it more swirly, more of a looser type of painting, but adding in that marble look, that would be awesome. It would be amazing. So my thoughts on this is, well, I'm kind of in between. I don't like it for a color pencil, but I do like it for everything else. So that is going to be my final review. It is a both. So if you guessed that I like this paper, and if you guessed I did not like the paper, you both are right. I did not like it, and I did like it. Just two different mediums for it. So anyways, if you're looking for like longer tutorials, I do offer that over on my Patreon. The link is in the description below and also right here. And on that, I do have one free video underneath each medium, so that way you can give it a try, see if those tutorials are right for you. And yeah, if you like this video, please leave a like. That definitely helps the channel grow. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye, you guys.